You're listening to Dakota Spotlight. My name is James Wollner. Hey folks, and welcome back to the show. It's June of 2025. I'm excited to let you know I will be announcing the subject of Season 12 of Dakota Spotlight in the near future. Things are coming along very well, although there is still some research to be done and interviews to be made. I'm really excited about this season, and I can't wait to share it with you. I realize that due to the extensive research and work I put into Dakota Spotlight seasons, there are at times fairly long intervals between them. While working on those seasons, I like to get you other stories. Recently, I've been putting out some single episode stories, shorter summaries of cases, and I've gotten good feedback from some of you. I'm glad you're enjoying them. And that is what I have for you today. Another type of summary of another cold case out of North Dakota. Today, I'm going to tell you briefly about the case of Russell Turcotte. Let's get started. Let's rewind to the year 2002. In the town of Hoover, Montana, just 30 miles from the Canadian border, far from most everything, a 19-year-old kid named Russell Turcotte was living his life. The year before, he had graduated from high school in Wolf Point, Montana. After graduation, he took on a couple of local jobs, first at a local grocery store named Albertsons, then at a Mexican restaurant. He also enrolled in firefighting school, where he completed his training and officially became a firefighter. Russell was a driven young man, independent and full of energy. He loved music, loved skateboarding, and he had a gift for connecting with people. Those who knew him said he had a smile for everyone and made friends easily. He was also a man of peace. At one point, Russell had taken up boxing, but he walked away from the sport, not because he wasn't good at it, but because he didn't want to fight anymore. He realized it just wasn't who he was. In the final weeks of his life, Russell set out on a trip across the country, traveling with a friend to Michigan to attend a rainbow gathering, an event built around ideals of peace, nonviolence, and spiritual connection to the earth. For Russell, it wasn't just a celebration, it was a reflection of who he was. I actually found a very grainy video that appears to be from that 2002 rainbow gathering in Michigan. It's shaky footage of a lot of participants dancing and meditating, and it's possible Russell is somewhere in that footage, but it's hard to tell. To view this video yourself, head over to dakotaspotlight.com/rainbow. When the rainbow gathering in Michigan ended, Russell stayed behind for a few days to help clean up, a decision that perhaps says a little bit about the kind of guy he was. After that, it was time for him to head home. He actually had to get back to Montana to be the best man in a friend's wedding. And so Russell rolls up his sleeping bag, packs his backpack again, and heads out hitchhiking westward. On July 10, 2002, he stays with a friend in Brainerd, Minnesota. The next day, he spends the night in Fargo, North Dakota, with a friend he'd met at the rainbow gathering. The next morning, on July 12, 2002, his friend gives him a ride to an Interstate 29 on-ramp in Fargo. From there, Russell plans to hitchhike north to Grand Forks, North Dakota. Later that same day, he calls his mother from a payphone at Mini Mart in Grand Forks. Russell asks his mom if she will wire him $75 so he can buy a bus or train ticket for the final leg of his trip home. Russell's mom is happy to help her son out, and she sends him $100 the same day. However, Russell never picked up the money. The last confirmed sightings of Russell were from several witnesses who had seen him at the Simonson gas station and truck stop at Gateway Drive and Interstate 29 in Grand Forks. He was wearing a tie-dyed Grateful Dead t-shirt, baggy pants, and skater shoes. He carried a red framed backpack, a sleeping bag, and a folding chair. When Russell didn't return home or make contact, his family acted immediately. On July 14th, just 2 days after his last sighting, Linda called the Grand Forks Police Department to report him missing. The family also reached out to the friends he'd stayed with, and they began distributing flyers up and down U.S. Highway 2 and Interstate 94. They handed them out to truckers and travelers at gas stations, truck stops, and rest areas, anyone who might have passed through this region. They also registered his case with a national missing person organization, and stories ran in newspapers across Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota. But no tips came in, and no one came forward. By October, still without answers, the Turcotte family brought in Texas EquiSearch, a nonprofit volunteer search and recovery team. A 4-day search was launched beginning on October 18th. Their effort focused on a 5-mile radius around the Simonson truck stop in Grand Forks. More than 20 local volunteers searched on foot and by ATV, combing through tall grass, wooded areas, and terrain along the Red River. Still, no sign of Russell. Nearly 4 months would pass before Russell would be located. It was a Tuesday morning, November 5th, 2002, near the town of Penn, North Dakota. A cattle hauler was retracing his route from the night before because, somehow, while hauling livestock to Devil's Lake, the tailgate of his trailer had come open and 2 cows had fallen out somewhere along the way. This was north of U.S. Highway 2 and about 12 miles from Devil's Lake. The rancher had searched the area late into the night but had no luck finding the cows. So, early the next morning, he returned with his wife and 2 friends to continue the search. They eventually found one of the cows. Interestingly, it was tied to a tree. While searching for the other cow, he decided to walk through a nearby shelter belt, that is, a narrow row of trees planted to block the wind. Suddenly, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. Lying on the ground just 2 feet inside the tree line was a partially decomposed, nearly nude human body. And so, as one might imagine, phone calls were made. Investigators arrived. The human remains were transported to Bismarck, where the North Dakota State Medical Examiner performed an autopsy and confirmed the cause of death, blunt force trauma. The death was ruled a homicide. Using dental records, the body was soon identified as Russell Turcotte. On November 18, 2002, a funeral service was held at the Wolf Point High School auditorium where Russell had once been a student. He was laid to rest in Greenwood Cemetery. Russell's family has never stopped searching for answers. They've been active and determined at doing everything in their power to find out who killed their son. In December of 2002, just weeks after Russell was laid to rest, his mother, Linda Hansen, wrote a letter to the Grand Forks Herald. She was quoted as saying, "There's a killer or killers walking free in the state of North Dakota. All young adults are at risk of losing their lives as long as these killers are free to kill again." She urged readers to contact the governor and attorney general of North Dakota, asking them to ensure Russell's case received the attention it deserved. They also launched a public campaign, not for show, but because they believed his murder was not being investigated with the urgency it warranted. In April 2003, the family announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. A company named Newman Sign donated billboard space on the west edge of Grand Forks along U.S. Highway 2 to help spread the word. In May of 2003, family members gathered at the Simonson truck stop, the last place Russell was seen alive, wearing bright green shirts that read "Justice for Russ." It was partially a memorial, partially a protest, partially a plea to keep the investigation alive. Multiple agencies were involved in the investigation: the Grand Forks Police Department, Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, and the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation. But months passed, then years, and still no arrests were made. In November of 2003, another missing persons case shook the region. Drew Shadeen, a 22-year-old woman, vanished from a Grand Forks shopping mall. The response to her disappearance was immediate and massive. Hundreds of volunteers, national media coverage, and swift federal involvement. In comparison, Russell's case had received far less attention. His disappearance drew fewer searches, the law enforcement response was slower, and the story made fewer headlines. Russell's father, Bill Turcotte, once voiced his frustration like this: "The general public has been real helpful, real interested, and sympathetic. I can't say the same for law enforcement." He added that the family was deeply upset by the lack of progress and believed authorities were not working hard enough to solve the case. In October 2005, after years of limited movement in the investigation, the family turned to the FBI with a request. Could there be a connection between Russell's murder and Joseph Edward Duncan III? At the time, Duncan was a known violent offender with a history of targeting young male victims. He had recently been arrested and charged with multiple murders and was known to have been in Fargo around the time of Russell's disappearance. In fact, investigators informed the family that Duncan may have been at the Simonson truck stop, the last place Russell was seen, within hours of that final sighting. The FBI reviewed the possibility, but no evidence was found linking Duncan to the case. He was never charged in connection with Russell's murder. Still, Russell's parents pressed on. They stayed in touch with investigators, they spoke with journalists, they made sure Russell's story didn't disappear. In 2007, the case was featured on Haunting Evidence, a court TV series about unsolved murders. The episode aired on July 4th, bringing renewed national attention, but still, sadly, no new leads. To this day, Russell Turcotte's murder remains unsolved. We'll be right back. More than 2 decades have passed since Russell Turcotte was last seen at the Simonson truck stop in Grand Forks, and still his family does not have answers. Despite the passage of time, despite the silence, his family and loved ones have never stopped searching for justice. Really, they did everything they could have done. They reported him missing promptly. They contacted authorities in multiple jurisdictions. They raised awareness across state lines. They paid for flyers, ran ads, distributed information to truckers and travelers across the region. And they searched, both on foot and in spirit, for years. If you know anything about the murder of Russell Turcotte, please consider coming forward. Tips can be directed to the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation. To watch the video of the 2002 Rainbow Gathering in Michigan, head over to dakotaspotlight.com/rainbow. That's all for me for this time, folks. Thanks so much for listening to Dakota Spotlight, and I will see you next time.